Is this the week Congress will finally pass funding bills to avoid a government shutdown? And what about the funding for Ukraine, for Israel, and for the U.S. southern border? And what about the Farm Bill? Could passage of an appropriations bill launch serious consideration of the ag legislation?
Live with reports of alleged legislation via Farm Journal broadcast, this is AgriTalk. This morning we begin with a conversation with Machinery Pete, Greg Peterson. Then it's Senator Jerry Moran from Kansas. And directly following the news, Brett Waltz from BAM WX. I'm handsome newsman Davis Michelson, and now the host of AgriTalk, Chip Rory.
All right, Davis, buddy. We are back in the bunker. It's a good thing, too.
Listen, I can hear it in your voice, brother. You sound so excited. You sound refreshed, relaxed, ready to face what comes next.
Yeah. Absolutely. All of the above. Check all the boxes. And it feels even more like spring this morning since we've got some thunderstorms rolling through northeast Iowa.
Yes, we've got mixed sunshine and sort of cloudiness here, but I can feel the moisture in the air. I don't know if it's humidity or if there's rain on the way. Bro, we are dry up here, down here in Kansas City.
Yeah, well, it's dry here yet, too. Don't get me wrong. But it was actual legitimate rain.
I love it.
That fell here this morning for a short period of time. I figure we maybe picked up a tenth of an inch.
Okay.
But it's happening, and every now and then I hear a thunder boomer out there. It's
nice.
It feels more and more like spring. Welcome to AgriTalk. Glad that you are with us on this Monday morning. Real quick, a headline that was just made this morning by the Supreme Court of the United States. Is it voted or is it ruled?
Let's go with ruled. It sounds
ruled.
More official. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, ruled 9-0.
Okay.
A unanimous decision.
It was a shutout.
A shutout that former President Trump should be on the ballot in Colorado.
Well, looky there.
State of Colorado has no constitutional right to remove him from the ballot, and love him, hate him. It doesn't matter to me, but I'm telling you, this is 100% the right decision.
Yeah. Oh, and this is Nikki Haley gains a little bit of ground too. Huh?
Yeah. Well, big day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Big day tomorrow for candidate Haley and for former President Trump. There's no question about it. So, all right, man, let's get to the news. What do you got?
Well, bro, I got some daily sales to start out with here. I got 110,000 metric tons of corn sold to Taiwan for the 23-24 marketing year, and 126,000 metric tons of soybean cake and meal to unknown destinations. That's split between the 23-24 and the 24-25 marketing years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good news to see Taiwan in there doing some buying. I don't think it's it's a reflection of the conditions of the markets. We've created some deals, some opportunities in these grain markets right now.
Well, we'll get more on the weather here in a moment, but the National Weather Service calls for increasing showers and thunderstorm chances ahead of a slow-moving cold front through the Midwest, Mississippi Valley, and Southern Plains today, and the Ohio Valley in the southeast on Tuesday. Another coastal storm is forecast to bring a new round of rain to the mid-Atlantic Monday and to New England on Tuesday. Weather remains unsettled for northern portions of the West, with additional very heavy snowfall expected for higher mountain elevations. Much above average spring-like temperatures for much of the central and eastern United States. Wildfire threat remains elevated Monday. For the southern high plains here in KC, Chip, they told us, don't be burning stuff over the weekend.
Yeah. The winds that were blowing yesterday were just absolutely incredible.
Yep.
But nothing like what they had on mountaintops out in California. 190 mile an hour. How'd you like that?
Quite the deal. Quite
the deal. But it was blowing hard enough in eastern Iowa that it blew the top off the roof off at least one monoslope cattle shed.
Yikes.
Yeah, it was pretty rough out there.
Well, U.S. natural gas futures saw a 6% surge, reaching a 3-week high of $194 on Monday. Following an 8% gain in the previous week, the increase attributed to producers scaling back operations. Chip, Chevron reportedly indefinitely idled the 2 biodiesel production facilities, one in Ralston, Iowa, the other in Madison, Wisconsin, citing poor market conditions. Combined, those 2 plants can process about 50 million gallons per year of biodiesel. And meanwhile, ethanol producer Valero Energy Corp joined an $8 billion carbon capture and storage project in the U.S. Corn Belt, supporting a proposed pipeline despite significant challenges ahead. Significant challenges ahead, I think, is the read on that, Chip.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And trying to secure a pathway for that pipeline is without a doubt the number one headwind in that project.
Well, Chip, the House on Wednesday is expected to vote on a first tranche minibus of full-year spending bills, including the Departments of Ag, Transport, Housing and Urban Development, Veterans Affairs, and Energy, along with the Food and Drug Administration. The EPA and Departments of Commerce, Justice, and Interior are also covered. Enactment of the measure will fund those agencies through September 30. A provision in the must-pass government funding legislation unveiled Sunday would prohibit China from purchasing oil from the U.S. emergency stockpiles. Chip, we call that the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Mm-hmm. And finally here, according to government data, the population of migrants living in the U.S. is set to surge to 8 million by the end of September, marking a significant 167% increase over the past 5 years. Chip.
Wow. Wow, big numbers, big numbers. All right. Thank you very much, Davis. Let's bring in Brett Waltz, BAMWX.com. How are you, Brett?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. It's a Monday morning. You'll have to cut me a little bit of slack here.
No worries.
Thunder, lightning, and actual rain up here in Northeast Iowa, dude.
Yeah, how about that? It's actually the first of a couple of chances that you all are going to get this week. Basically from where you're at across northern Iowa, down south and east. Multiple storm systems this week, one right now in the short term, and then another one as we work into kind of Thursday and into Friday. Some areas could pick up more than an inch of rain over the next 7 days from eastern Iowa all the way down through Missouri and the Ohio Valley.
Perfect. We will take it. There's no question about that. But the pattern in general is sticking with the above normal temperatures, right?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. Today, the high temperatures across the Midwest are going to be 30 degrees above normal, which is just wild with this time of the year. And it's something we've had consistently. And I think warmer than normal temperatures persist the next 10 to 12 days or so. Maybe a little bit of a cool down to more seasonable conditions as we work toward the end of March.
Okay. All right. Take us down to South America and Brazil.
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm still a little bit concerned about central Brazil, really the next month in general. For their major Safrinha second corn crop, Mato Grosso do Sul. I think drier and hotter than normal in that area in general is possible. Southern Brazil, far eastern Brazil, that's an area that I think can be a little bit better off with more precipitation chances.
All right. Well, we will definitely be keeping an eye on that because we know that the markets will be watching what is happening with the development of the Safrinha crop down there, no question. All right. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate you, man.
Yep. Thank you.
You bet. Brett Waltz, BAMWX.com. Okay. I had a chance to have a conversation with Greg Peterson, Machinery Pete, last week down in Houston at Commodity Classic. That was a lot of fun. We're going to find out what's going on in the used machinery markets from Greg next.
Machinery Pete here, folks. This segment of AgriTalk brought to you by our friends at Dakota Ag Innovations, makers of Dakota Shine, the best way I've seen to fix faded paint. Go to dakotashine.com or call 888-996-7801.
All my reasons now, she's gone.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. Glad that you're with us on this Monday morning. Davis, we'll talk about this more at the end of the show, but what a rewarding week last week at Commodity Classic. Caught up with some friends, met a lot of new friends, a lot of listeners that had some, some ideas, some comments, some thanks for what we do on the air. So that
that's very nice.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I got to see this guy, Greg Peterson, Machinery Pete. How you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm doing well, Chip. How are you doing?
Doing real fine. Busy week this week?
Yeah, busy week. I'm heading out to Indiana, speaking tomorrow in Elkhart, Indiana, and then auction, of course, as we drift into March here. Still the busiest month of the calendar in the U.S. for farm machinery auction, so a lot cranking up. So, yep, lots on the plate.
All right. Let's talk about this behemoth that we saw down at in Houston last week at Commodity Classic, and let's make it the pick of the week. All right.
Yeah, pick of the week again. Not an auction item this week, but folks, if you were down at Commodity Classic or following along with our social posts, all the Chips reporting down there, Deere released their new 9RX 830 and also the 9RX 770, 9RX 710 tractors. Created quite a stir. That 9RX 830 that's the largest tractor Deere's ever made. It's 830 horsepower, weighs 84,000 pounds. The cab, there's much more visibility, 20% more visibility, 15% more floor space. All the maintenance you can do on ground level. No DAF, which was, I knew posting a YouTube video that would, get people yakking a little bit. But, posted a YouTube video talking to Deere's marketing specialist, Michael Porter. Great guy with Deere there, walking us through the things. But, I think, of course, then people were asking, what's the price tag? I don't know. I think exactly it's kind of in the 1.3 million ballpark.
Yeah.
Oh, that kind of floors me. I mean, I know I'm getting old and gray, but holy crap, 1.3 million. That's different than 34 years ago when I started, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So the comments are so wide ranging on this tractor, Greg. I don't know if I've ever seen the launch of a new line create this much chatter, all the way from holy smokes, what do I got to do to get that on my farm? I want it yesterday, to explain to me why we need 830, to explain to me the price tag, to explain to me. It is a conversation that I think is going to be happening for a while.
Yeah, it won't stop. I mean, it'll just go as long as we're still kicking. But you're right. A lot of folks totally get it. I mean, with the operations getting bigger and bigger, and our time window is shorter and shorter, and harder to find more help. I mean, you can find a bigger horse like this, keep it under warranty, and help you move faster. I mean, that can make sense for a lot of operations. But then again, people stand back and go, "Where's the third buyer on that thing? How's that going to shake out?"
Right.
And that's my gig, 34 years reporting on used value. So I stand there and marvel at whether it's red, green, blue, orange, whatever, at the technology and the amazing, advancements. But just cold hard facts, I cover the used market. I'm the scorekeeper. So it was really interesting last week as I was traveling down there. There were two big dealer auctions. I think we touched on them last week when we talked. And now there were two John Deere 9RX 640s.
Right.
Which was the behemoth, pre last week. And so when I see a new release like this, I'm always like, okay, well, what'll that be worth in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? That's interesting. But what does it do to the model that's kind of coming, along not to replace or whatever? But
yeah.
So anyway, these 9RX 640s last week, Monday, in Mason City, Iowa, Kibble Equipment had a sale by Steffes Group. They had a 22 model with 837 hours on it. That brought $555,000. The next day, Tuesday, Richmond, Ohio, Ag Power, huge John Deere dealer with massive footprint, had an online auction by Merit Auctions, and they had a 22 model 9RX 640, 619 hours, brought $550,000.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing, again, we got the new model coming out, but also, of course, corn and beans, hasn't been so rosy there since we flipped the calendar. So if you compare those two prices, $555 and $550, to what 9RX 640s were bringing just a couple months ago, like if we wind it back right before Christmas, December 22nd, one of those same auction companies, Steffes Group, sold a pair of them in West Fargo, North Dakota, both 22 models, both just under $600. One went 578, one went 571.
Okay.
So just over 2 months later, you're at 550. And if you walk it back a little farther, last October, Steffes Group, same auction company, West Fargo, sold a 22 model 719 hours for $599.
Okay.
And walk back 2 months before that to August, Steffes Group, Williston, North Dakota, sold a 22 model, a little bit less hours, 520 for $661.
Okay.
You've gone from 661 down to 550. And so that's what when I walked the halls last week at the show, people were asking me, Pete, are things softening up? And yes, they are. And that's a little bit of proof right there.
Yeah. Interesting. And the number one question that I got last week down at Commodity Classic was, has this corn market put in a low? You get into a conversation about it and whether or not that is happening or was happening and what it would mean for the industry in general if corn was indeed putting in a low last week. And, boy, the conversation always went to equipment, Greg. It launched straight from the price of corn into equipment. So the connection is undeniable.
Right at the hip.
Yep.
Right at the hip. Always will be.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Okay, what are you looking at today?
Well, today, in fact, I pulled off the road here when I called into the show and watching an auction, another dealer auction, H&R AgriPower, big footprint on the red side of the ledger down in Kentucky, Tennessee, Southern Illinois. Great dealership down there. Big dealer auction by Merit Auctions today. And I just looked right before I hopped on the call with you, and they have 25 planters on the auction today.
Wow. And
I did see that a 23 model Case H 2150 high-speed 24 or 30-inch, I think the number was 109 that it brought. And that might be a little bit drifting towards maybe, better buying condition, I would say, given that was a 23 model. On the tractor side, I think they had 21 tractors. I think the sale is still closing, folks. You can probably hop out to Proxy Bid and check it out. But I think they had a 21 model Case H Magnum 380 with like 1,150 hours. And I think that came in at 202. Again, we're going to have to compare there. But there's just no getting around it. I mean, corn and beans where they're at. And, with the very late model, big stuff, is just some recalibrating going on, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this sounds like a real test for the market. And the test always comes in March. Like you were saying, the volume of equipment that's going to be trading hands is on the way up. So it will be a test, no doubt. Another auction tonight, right?
Yeah, very interesting sale tonight, folks. If you're into low-houred, one-owner green tractors, man, my friends at Hager Auction over in Wisconsin have a sale, the Lester Frank Online Farm Retirement Auction. Not a big sale. It's in Rice Lake, Wisconsin, but check this out. A John Deere 7810, 2,664 hours, one owner. John Deere 7920, 1,805 hours, one owner. And how about an Alice for you, too? An Alice 185 diesel with a loader, only 2,151 hours, one owner. So I think it starts closing at 7:30 tonight. Just go to HagerAuction.com. And I should say the same auction company, Hager Auction, has another fantastic sale Wednesday night this week for Cooper Farms out of Clayton, Wisconsin. If you're looking for nice hay forage equipment, folks, man, super sharp. Cool. You can check Machinery Pete Facebook or Twitter. I posted about that sale this morning, so that'll be interesting as well.
Gotcha. All right. Real quick again, where are you heading today?
Well, I'm heading out to Indiana tomorrow. I'm going to be speaking in Elkhart, Indiana. Folks, if you're in the area, come on out. Elkhart County, it's called Pay Dirt. It's a 3-day event. It's going to be great fun. Go to elcoswcd.org, and I hope to see you tomorrow in Elkhart.
Fantastic. Good stuff, Greg. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you later.
Sounds great, Chip. Have a good week.
All right, that is Greg Peterson, Machinery Pete. Travel safe, Greg. Coming up next, time for a conversation with Senator Jerry Moran from Kansas, right here on AgriTalk.
Time for Markets Now with the experts from Pro Farmer.
Joining us now, Pro Farmer editor Brian Grady. Beej, generally a positive day in the grain and oilseed markets. What's going on?
Yeah, some pretty solid corrective buying here to open up the week, Chip, and not a lot of fresh news, so to speak, that's fueling it. I think that we all know that the funds are heavily short across the grain and soy markets, and just seeing some short covering and corrective buying. So not only important how we finish today's session, but also as we progress through the week here, and kind of kicking off a new month. I know Friday was the first day of March, but this is the first official week or full week of the month. So we'll see how things progress through the week here.
Yeah, no doubt. It is a kind of a critical week for the ability of these grain markets to move to the upside. It does concern me that we've seen a fair amount of short covering already take place in the grains, corn in particular, without a huge move.
Yeah, absolutely, and so that would be concerning if the funds can get out of a lot of their short position without really moving the market a lot. That would be a concern longer term.
Right. Yeah, something we'll have to watch. We've got some pressure in the livestock trade in the cattle complex in particular. What's happening?
Yeah, feeders trading sharply to the downside. Because of the strength in corn, in all likelihood, is the biggest pressure point there. But live cattle also participating to the downside, as are hog futures, especially the front end of that market. And so we're starting to see the seller interest build a little bit here as we go through mid-morning.
All right, Brian, good stuff. We'll talk to you later this week. That is Pro Farmer editor Brian Grady on Markets Now.
Opinions expressed on AgriTalk do not necessarily reflect the views of Farm Journal Broadcasting, affiliate stations, or sponsors. We don't make the news, we render it. AgriTalk.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. I'm your host, Chip Flory. Glad that you are with us. As I am happy to introduce Senator Jerry Moran from Kansas. Senator Moran, welcome back to AgriTalk. Great to speak with you again.
Chip, I'm glad to be back. It does offend me every time before I go on the air. My opinions are not yours. What are you doing here?
That's just something that Davis has to come on and say from time to time. I don't know what that's all about either.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
I guess you could be offended too.
Yeah, that's right. I've learned to live through it. Just work right on through it.
All right.
It's neither here nor there. This feels like the best opportunity this week that we've seen yet to get the appropriations bills passed. Is that right?
It's right. It absolutely is right. And fortunately, agriculture is in the first tranche of bills. Yeah. So there's an overall spending level at the very top. Then we divide it up into 12 subcommittees, and each one of those get a spending level. One of those 12 is agriculture, and then 6 of the bills went first. Those 6 bills include the one on agriculture, and then we have another couple of weeks to try to figure out if we can get the last 6 bills done. But I would expect an agricultural appropriation bill to work its way through the House and Senate, be ready for the president's signature in about a week.
Okay. A couple of follow-ups to that one. Number one, is this a sign that the House GOP leadership has learned how to deal with some of the rebels that are on the House GOP?
Well, my guess is that the appropriations process in the House will go outside the normal rules. Normally, a bill gets a rule under which it's considered on the House floor from the Rules Committee. That Rules Committee is dominated by Republicans in this case because the Republicans are in the majority. And it's probably unlikely that you could get all the Republicans on the Rules Committee to approve a rule. So we'll wait and see, but there is a path by which you can bring a bill to the floor. It means that it takes 2/3 of those voting. So that means Republican and Democrat support broadly would be necessary to get around just passing a bill with 51% of the vote.
Right.
But it does mean that the speaker is interested in doing appropriations bills. It means that shutting down government is receiving the the knock that it deserves. It doesn't solve problems and creates more. And it means that that government can continue to function even in times of division in Congress.
Yeah. Yep. It is time for this to happen, and hopefully we can absolutely get it done. So if it does happen, and we do get the funding for agriculture and USDA, what is it? Could that kind of jumpstart the conversation around the Farm Bill?
Well, I would hope so. I'd point out first that FY24, which is the appropriation bill that we're talking about for the Department of Agriculture, is really even funded, level funded with FY23. And there has been a lot of desire on the part of many people in the country and many of us in the country to get our spending under control. This at least demonstrates that the increases in spending that we've seen, particularly related to COVID, we spent too much money during COVID, both Republicans and Democrats, and we're paying a price in inflation. Agriculture in particular is paying a price. And these appropriation bills are being marked to pretty level funding from one year to the next. So those tremendous growth in spending is down. That's even more important that we can pass appropriation bills without loading them up with billions of dollars of more money. The appropriation subcommittee that I lead in the Senate, we're spending $2.5 billion less this year than last year. So changes are afoot. I'm really troubled, Chip, and that's a point I really want to make. So I'm moving to it about the Farm Bill.
Yeah.
You know, Chairman Stabenow indicated last week, 2 weeks ago, within the last 2 weeks, that we're really not going to negotiate a Farm Bill during the year. That I've been through, 4 or 5 Farm Bills. I've been in conference committees as we've drafted Farm Bills. We've never just walked away. And this is a sign of dysfunction in Congress. Senator Stabenow indicated that she was satisfied with the environmental provisions and the food nutrition programs in the Farm Bill and was just going to, in a sense, leave it as it is. But that's leaving out farmers. It's leaving out farmers and ranchers, producers. Things have changed dramatically in the last 5 years. And never have I seen Congress say, we're just going to go. We struggle every time to get a Farm Bill done, but we continue to work on it. And that's what troubles me so much. Regardless of what happens in the appropriations process, it seems like for the moment that the negotiations in the Senate, there's nothing taking place.
Yeah. I'm not sure what brings her back into the conversation either, Senator. Is there something that could re-engage Chairwoman Stabenow into the conversation on the bill?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's more money. And certainly I predicted, and maybe on your program months ago, that with Senator Stabenow, a person of good faith and good work and a personality, a desire to get things done, along with John Bozeman, the ranking Republican, that we ought to be able to get Farm Bill progress. And at a meeting at the White House, the chairwoman said, we're done. And again, maybe we would never come up with a Farm Bill, but I've never known a Congress to just quit working. And that is a sign of the times that we can't tolerate. Yeah. And, we're up $100 billion in expenses from FY20, from the last Farm Bill. There's much more. We need a Title I that takes into account all the inflationary pressures that have occurred. USDA forecast, the farmer and rancher forecast income profitability to fall by $42 billion, a 25% drop compared to 2022. It means that there are other provisions in the Farm Bill besides nutrition programs and besides environmental programs that need our attention and need it desperately. Yeah. So hopefully we can work with Senator Stabenow and others to jumpstart the process. Good. And make sure that we're not. The House could help us. They're working on a Farm Bill. Maybe if they pass something and send it to the Senate, it would cause us to go to work.
Gotcha. Well, I hope that does trigger some reaction there, because you look outside of what was expected in the Farm Bill to begin with, and we've got Prop 12, we've got Massachusetts Q3, the whole commerce question. Is there another legislative path that we should be watching for a quote-unquote fix for Prop 12?
Well, finding those legislative routes are very difficult. A farm bill is the one that makes the most sense. But in the absence of a farm bill, it means that each of us who care about agriculture have got to be finding another path. Usually that would be an appropriations bill. And we are completing the ag appropriation bill now. We certainly have the emergency supplemental that's pending in the House and 6 more appropriation bills in the Senate and the House in the next 2 weeks. So we better get our act together. You raise a really good point.
Okay. All right. Every time I have a legislator on the show right now, Senator, I get questions texted to me. Ask him about funding for Ukraine. Ask him about funding for Israel, for the U.S. border. Let's start with Ukraine. Will Congress pass a bill that provides more aid to Ukraine?
You know, the hardest thing for me to do is to predict what Congress might do. But I'm still an optimist. I voted for, support, spoke in favor of the funding bill that included Ukraine, Israel, and our efforts to strengthen our military capabilities in the South Pacific. Our country, I am now a member of the Senate Committee on Intelligence. And that may sound like something that people will now mock. But for 2 days a week, I listen to our intelligence community brief me and about a dozen other senators on what's going on in the challenges we face globally. And they are real and significant. And our country, our primary responsibility as a Congress, as a federal government, is to defend the nation. And the provisions in that bill are important. And I think the Speaker is working to find a path to get us an appropriation bill that includes those things. So the Senate has done its work. About 2/3 of the senators voted for it, Republican and Democrat. And now we're waiting for the House to find a path for it to move forward. This conversation ends where we started about what can the House do in its current circumstances.
Okay. All right. Talking about condition of agriculture as well, and here's another listener-driven question. And basically, last week, Secretary Vilsack said that the farmer protests in Europe are completely different, I'll put that in quotes, from what's happening in the U.S. Do you agree with that?
I don't know the answer to that question. We've become a very populist-oriented society, both in the United States and around the world, and people are much more willing to go to the streets, in a sense, and we just need to sort out what is the right policy for the well-being of the United States.
Yeah.
And when it comes to food production and food security.
Right. Okay. Senator Vilsack, oh man, we're almost out of time, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Senator Vilsack passed on making the announcement for sustainable aviation fuel for corn for ethanol pathway. I assume that you're supporting that?
We are working hard to make sure that happens, to make sure that all of agriculture is included in the ability to create SAF. I've introduced legislation that involves flying and farming, both Kansas interests, that allow USDA to do more for SAF than it's doing now.
Fantastic. Senator Moran, thank you so much for your time.
It's a great future item. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chip.
You bet.
The best talkers in ag, including you. Join the conversation on AgriTalk. Call us at 855-4-TALK-AG. Well, and welcome back to AgriTalk, everyone. Monday morning. Thanks so much for opting to spend some time with us today. Great conversations. We had Machinery Pete, and then, of course, Senator Jerry Moran from the great state of Kansas. I was in Kansas over the weekend, Chip. Lovely folks over there. Lovely. Yep. Made it over to Lawrence. What's up, Lawrence?
Very cool.
I don't know if anyone's listening or not from Lawrence, but, hello.
I'm
hello
sure they
anyway.
are. I'm sure they are.
You know what? It doesn't matter whether they are or not. I wish them well. Hello. Good morning, everyone.
How about Senator Moran? He was on his game.
Oh, dude, so much in there. I want to, before we get to that, because I want to hear about your trip too. You and Big Apple are just back from Houston, Texas.
Right.
But I did hear Machinery Pete say something, and I want to make sure that I heard him correctly. Did he use the word softness in reference to the iron market?
Yep. Yeah.
This is new.
It's we've been building up to it.
Mm-hmm.
And watching the trends, and I made mention of it. Was it last week or the week before that, doggone it, it sounds like you're going to start to say that things are softening up on us here, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the direction that we're headed? And he said, I'm not, at that time it was, we're seeing the signs, can't really pull the trigger on it quite yet, but that seems to be the direction we're going. Well, he's uncorked it at this point, and seeing some pressure on the tractor market. And he did not want to talk about overall pressure on used equipment values until it was reflected in the tractors. And now that it's showing up, it's time to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. On to conversation with a good Senator Jerry Moran from Kansas once again. It just, for me, what stuck out, I don't know what stuck out to you, but the Farm Bill stuff, man. He does not seem all that hopeful that progress will be made anytime soon.
To hear that one side of the leadership, and I'm sure that it's been a long and frustrating process, but you know what? Tough. That's what you get paid for. You get paid to get the jobs done that you're supposed to do, and legislating and the Farm Bill is part of what needs to be done. Now, if your priorities are nutrition title and conservation title, and what the heck, it's got everything in it that we really need. Therefore, I'm not willing to push forward on anything else that others see a need to address. I'm just going to walk away from it. That's terrible. It's absolutely terrible that they have done that. And Senator Stabenow needs to reengage in this. And I'm very surprised that that most believe, or as Senator Moran said, the view is that she has walked away from the Farm Bill.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that was going to happen. I did not, Davis. I thought, I mean, we can go back to the old reason that we've been talking about for quite some time. She is not running for re-election.
Right.
The 2023 / now 24 Farm Bill was going to be part of her legacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to just decide that it's not that important, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the thought is, you know what, I'm not going to be around much longer here in my post, I'm saying. Maybe I'll just pull back, and let whoever will remain after I leave office, get a start on this. Is there something to that, maybe?
Oh, there may be.
It seems uncharacteristic that she would throw up her hands.
It really does. But I don't know how else to describe it. I think the Senator Moran did a really fine job of explaining the situation, and it sure sounds like she has decided to walk away.
Yeah. On a brighter note, I didn't leave you much time here, but I want to hear all about your trip. Tell me about
it. Number one, record attendance, as I understand it, at Commodity Classic. It was a brand new location for Commodity Classic down in Houston. They tied it into the rodeo down in Houston. I think probably helped on that front. And then just the idea of going someplace new really brought people out for this event. The trade show floor was so heavily populated that they needed a second space at this thing. It had the feel, Davis, of a go-go ag economy.
Huh. I like that.
It really did. It had the look of it. It had the feel of it. But then there were these side conversations that were taking place, along with, boy, I wonder if it's going to be this big next year when things are slowing down. There were some cautionary conversations that were taking place at the same time. But generally speaking, it was an upbeat event. There was a buzz to it. And I was glad to be there, and we did 5 shows.
Yeah.
We did 5 shows from the trade show floor down there at Commodity Classic, and that was a lot of fun, dude.
Oh, I bet. Well, I know that you love being out there among the good folks and glad handing and goofing around with the people that go to these deals. That's awesome. That's outstanding.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. All right, dude. Hey, thank you all for listening this morning. We certainly appreciate it. You got to come back this afternoon. We're going to have a conversation with Ted Seifert from Zahner Ag Hedge. Believe it or not, I got
Ted.
I saw talkative Ted when I was down there at Commodity Classic. So looking forward to getting him on here.
Awesome.
No question about it. We've got a lot of market issues that need to be covered, and including what does today's corn rally tell us? We'll talk about it this afternoon here on AgriTalk.